Thanks for joining me for Going Deeper with Steve Arterburn. I am Steve Arterburn, and I'm going to go deeper with you. We've been talking about how do you create a magnificent marriage, especially when it's dead and dry and kind of miserable. We want you to go from misery to magnificence in your marriage. So what have we done? We've talked about communication. How do we make that work? We talked about the baggage that you're dragging in to a marriage. We've discussed how to date and what's the value of dating. And we've talked about how feeling loved can really, you assume that you're going to feel loved in marriage, but you don't, and how to correct that. And today we're going to go into the fifth area, and the problem is avoiding hard talks. So the answer to a magnificent marriage means that we're going to have some difficult conversations. So here's the verse. Proverbs 10:10. When you wink it wrong, you cause trouble. But an open rebuke brings lasting peace. So somehow we start thinking, it's my job to just be a peacekeeper. God honors peacekeeping, we think. No, He doesn't honor peacekeeping. He honors peacemaking, and sometimes we have to disturb the peace to make peace. That's the reality. So here, rather than, I'm just going to make things nice and wonderful, I'm not going to talk about this thing that is destroying our relationship, I am going to talk about it, and I'm going to deal with it. And so I want to give you some help in having that difficult conversation, that you can work through it, and maybe even come to this place of a compromise where both people win. Sometimes there's no compromise, but you feel like a winner going with the other person. Now let me just tell you the big problem being a Christian and being married and these difficult issues is one of the things that I hear so often, which is, I'll even show you where it doesn't work, is the guy says, we solve everything together. But where we disagree, I'm the tiebreaker because I'm the leader. Nice. So she gets to do what she wants to do unless it disagrees with what you want her to do. And then when it does, you are the tiebreaker. So there's no mutual submission, as you see in Ephesians, where it says, submit yourselves one to another out of reverence for Christ. Got a whole book on that called Every Man's Marriage that you ought to look at. Do you see what I'm saying here? That this tiebreaker thing is really just an extension of the dictator-doormat marriage, where he gets his way and she gets in the way until she gets out of the way, makes her place as the doormat. That is not a marriage. That's a dictatorship. And there's nothing in Scripture that supports a male dictatorship in a marriage. You need to be a leader. What does a leader do? Well, the leader's the first one to admit he's wrong. The leader's the first one to be on his knees praying for the family. The leader is the first one growing and showing growth, not demanding his big baby way. We have a term, my wife and I have a term called king baby. And that is the way a lot of marriages work, where he's the big shot, but he's really just a baby wanting to get his way. On the other hand, how about the angry, controlling wife who has really beaten the guy down? Rather than nurture the little boy that's there and call out the man, you have shut down the man and risen up a little boy. And little boys and angry moms don't tend to like to be intimate together. So is it any wonder that you have a horrible life, horrible marriage, horrible in the area of sexual intimacy? We'll talk more about that in I believe it is our 8th area of making a magnificent marriage. So if we get away from those dynamics and we come into a difficult area, and I'm not living out the dictator doormat kind of situation, then I've got a chance for things to go well. So let's say I needed to have a difficult conversation with my spouse. First thing I'd want to do is I'd want to check my attitude. Really, I mean, that's where you start. What is my attitude right now? Am I on this, I got to look better than you? I got to have more attention than I'm getting? Am I at this place where I'm demanding, where I'm bitter and angry, not because of this difficult issue, but because of mommy and daddy, and this has triggered something that's taken me back to mommy and daddy? My attitude needs to be the attitude of Christ. And whenever a person had a problem, Jesus had a lot of grace in his attitude. So we got to look at that before we start anything. I don't think you're going to have a good outcome approaching a hard issue if you've got an angry, bitter attitude full of blame, shame, and just internal gain, whatever would rhyme with that. Okay? So attitude first. When you're talking to somebody about something that's really difficult, I think you have to start by assuring them that you love them. I had to have a difficult conversation with one of our kids, and it was going to take us down a very different kind of path with them. And so I had to start with, hey, I want you to know I love you. I've never loved you more, but we got to talk about something very difficult. Now, my kids know that we're going to have one difficult, one uncomfortable, one really just a conversation you don't want to have once a week. Because I'm going to ask them all the tough questions about all the things in their private, secret life, and I expect them to give me an answer. And you don't have to worry about it the rest of the week, if we're current in all the other areas. But I'm going to have this one, and it's going to be difficult. So just get used to it. So I want to assure them that I love them no matter what. So you want to assure your spouse, hey, look, there's something tough I want to talk to you about. It has nothing to do with whether or not I love you. I love you so much. And this is kind of standing in the way of the flow of my love or receiving love. And so I'd like to do the tough thing and get it out of the way. Is this a good time for you to talk? Now, if you go to someone with a difficult conversation, you want it to be a good time for them. You don't want them thinking, oh my goodness, I have 15 minutes to find my golf shoes, put the golf bag in the trunk, and get to the golf course, and you're wanting to approach them with something difficult. Don't do it. Just say, is this a good time? The person says, you know what, it's really not. Don't complain about that. Okay, tell me a good time. Is it tonight at 9:30? Kids are in bed, we're alone? Great, we'll do it. Because I want to talk to you about something that's hard to talk about, but I think if we could resolve it, everything in our relationship is going to get better. Okay, next thing. When I have the conversation, I want to be sure that I'm accurate about certain things that I assume are true. Honey, I want to have this difficult conversation. Thanks for making the time. I'm glad we didn't do it this morning. I'm glad we reserved this time. There are a couple of things that I need to make sure I've got right. Am I correct that you will not take out the garbage? Something stupid. And you think that's my job. Is that correct? And then the person goes, absolutely. That's why I was trained. I'm supposed to be the big shot and you're supposed to take out the garbage. Okay, I just want to be sure that I'm accurate in my perception. Because the person might say, no, I just meant that day. I needed you to take out the garbage. And I wasn't going to do it. I couldn't do it. I had back pain, had to go to the office, whatever. So you clarify. And he says, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's your job and I'm better than you. No, I just meant that day. Would you do it for me? Oh, I thought I heard you say every day, but you just said that one day. Now the issue's done because I made sure I was accurate. I didn't go with all of my assumptions about the issue. Okay, so we'll just stick with the trash can analogy. So I've got it right. Yes, I do, honey. I was taught that you should be the person that would take out the trash. That's your role. Okay, so now I've got it right. You want to share with them the impact that that has on you or someone else. Maybe you're not the issue, but you've seen the way someone else is being treated or some other situation being handled. So now that I got it right, say, I want you to be aware of the impact that that has on me. It makes me feel like I'm less than you and that you view me as less than you. In fact, so less that I feel like I'm an object to you. And I know you struggle with pornography, and I know that there's a lot of objectification there, and I'm just wondering if this isn't a holdover for that, where you think that the female is there just for you. Because I don't feel like we're equal in this relationship. I feel like I'm supposed to serve you in some way. And it's not this thing that says for us to submit ourselves one to another out of reverence for Christ. A person might say, what? I thought you were supposed to submit to me. No, no, no. Before it talks about submission by me and all of this, you needing to die to yourself, it talks about mutual submission, both people submitting. So the impact to me is that I don't feel like I'm your partner. I don't feel like we got married. I feel like a child. I feel like you're an adult. I feel distance. It's insulting. It's degrading. That's how I feel. That's the impact. Now you give them a chance. You ask them, were you aware that that's how it made me feel? Don't talk about right or wrong. Were you aware that that's how it made me feel? Yes, I was aware of that, and I still believe in my policy. They might say, no, I had no idea. I want to change that. But let's just say they said, I knew that it was demeaning and demoralizing, but I feel like that's the way it ought to be no matter what. Okay, so then you say, well, I want to ask you to take a second look at that philosophy or that stance or that decision. And I'm going to ask you to see it from my perspective and see if there's any room, any ground that you have that you could let go of. And out of a desire for us to be closer together, is there any way, once you understand the impact it has on me, that you might be willing to move my direction in this particular issue? Person might say, wow, I didn't know that this had such an impact on you. I think I'm right about this, but man, you're my partner. I didn't know it had such an impact. Let me pray about it. Let me think about it. And then you say, okay, well, let's come back tomorrow, same time, and let's talk about it. Now, if the person is still believing you ought to take out the trash and serve them, then I think you have to say, honey, this is the time. We need to get a third party so we can come to a compromise, because I'm not going to be able to be there for you. And tomorrow a crisis may occur that we're not anticipating, and we got to get together on this so we're together to go out there and conquer the world. Now let's just say you come to an agreement. The person says, I had no idea it had that impact on you. I'm going to go with you. I'm going to change. You want to be sure that you put in this last little thing. Let's check in a week from now and see how it's going with our new way of being. See, that's a way to have a difficult conversation. You might want to look at this again. It's on YouTube. Give it a shot of approaching the tough things, resolving them in this way. Or you can't resolve it, bringing in a third party, and that third party could be a marriage counselor. You could find that at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. But if you come to our intimacy intensive, it really could clear up so much that you have no way of clearing up. Thanks for joining me. When we get back together, we're going to talk about the tough issue in magnificent marriages, finances. I'll see you then.